Harriet, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here at IMpower. How interesting have you found it being here, and what conversations have you been having at the IMpower with your colleagues and peers back in the flesh for the first time for many people for a while?
Yeah, I have to say it's been so good. Actually, coming into the event, I knew very few people. So it was a little bit daunting, first one of these, and didn't know very many people, but it's been a really welcoming atmosphere. I was just saying before, actually, I was a little bit apprehensive when you've never been to one, how it's going to be, whether people are going to be really chatty, when you're going to network well. But actually, I've really enjoyed it and met some really interesting people.
That's great to hear. I mean, it particularly likes to think of itself as a forum for great conversations, and also looking forward at how do you meet some of the challenges. What would you say are those key challenges at the moment, and what are you hearing from colleagues when you chat to them?
I think for me, the biggest thing is present bias, and we've kind of heard it mentioned a couple of times in the sessions, but it's being emphasised as well by the cost of living crisis, inflation, all of these external factors that are affecting people's ability to look at their own future. So I was talking about it yesterday actually, there was a study done by this guy called Hirschfield and his team, and it looked at the brain scan, and it looked at how people view their current self versus how they view a current other. And actually it was kind of like, obviously you prioritise yourself, so we're a bit selfish, we all know that. But then when you look at kind of your future self and that current other, it showed a really similar connection. So actually you have as much empathy and connection with somebody existing, another person, than you do with your future self. So I think we need to bridge that connection. And then in the next one they looked at simulating VR, they aged the person and you interacted with your older self, which quite frankly I would be terrified to do. Absolutely. But by doing that, they saved over 30% more for retirement on average. And so by connecting with your future self, I think we have a responsibility as an industry to break down that present bias and start getting people engaged with that future. And I think that's coming through even stronger at the moment.
And obviously your specialism is financial well-being. What does that mean to you? And particularly as a woman, we know that the statistics show that future saving for women is far worse than for men. So tell me what you think about what you're seeing in terms of that future well-being for people.
So I think financial well-being is a concept that's misunderstood in many areas or overused, and that's because there's no set definition. It's quite new to academia and the industry as a term we use quite regularly. But essentially it's somebody's kind of state of confidence and control over their own finances, both now and in the future, but also what they perceive their standard of living to be and whether that's what they want. So we might have some private high net worth individuals who actually have a low sense of financial well-being because they're not where they want to be. And I think that's where we also need to be really aware that it isn't just the lower segments of society who are stretched, who are financially squeezed. It is them, and we do have a responsibility to contribute to their financial well-being, but it's also our clients. People are worrying about money, and we've just seen in teens, there was a recent stat that came out that's when 96% of teens are worrying about money. And that's insane, but it's understandable given the current situation and how squeezed everybody's feeling.
What do you think the solutions are to that, and what do you hope to be able to impart at something like this, and what do you hope people take away from conversations with you?
I think education is key, but we've spoken about it in lots of different contexts, and I don't think education in the session and kind of talking at people is going to work for younger people particularly. It's got to be education by stealth. It's got to be experience driven. And we have to take people on a journey so they understand themselves and their financial situation and how we can support them, and start to open up the doors on our industry and kind of be a bit more open about what the advice journey is, how it can benefit you, and hopefully we'll see benefits in the industry as well of closing that advice gap.
And I guess designing ways of making accessibility to that appeal to those people too, because that segment of society are used to being able to have everything at their fingertips. They want immediate access. It's a very different proposal than it would be for an older investor, say, as well.
Absolutely, and I think there's room for, it's all about personalisation, right? So everybody will want to get that information in different ways. And some of our older clients, it's just a piece of reassurance they need. So I've seen X in the news, I've seen this in the news about the war in Ukraine. What does that mean for me? Where's my money at? Am I invested in Russia? Do I want to be invested in Russia? We're seeing values come out as well. Older people are wanting to have that conversation face to face, but we also are seeing that from younger people as well. Although we've got the digital solutions, they're really, really great for actively starting, but younger people do want that reassurance and that, yeah, you're doing the right thing, you know, that reassurance piece that a person can give to them.
It's
So
got to be a real trust business, hasn't it?
100%. So I think there's room for both, and they've got to complement each other, and we've got to work together as an industry to provide a range of solutions that works for different people in different ways and ensure that everybody's got access to what they need.
While you've been here this week, you took part in a special panel,
Yeah.
which was called The Voice, and it was sort of a showcase empowering women in the industry and looking at future leaders. How was that to be part of that, and how did you find that experience?
It was great. I mean, the session we did yesterday was really, really good. It was my first panel, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then the voice itself, when we did the boot camp, that was just so inspiring and so exciting. I went into it really apprehensively, and it was a bit like, I don't know what I'm going to say, and didn't really have I had a topic, and it was not what I spoke about in the end. They completely pivoted most of us. And what we spoke about actually became really personal to ourselves, and it was such a safe environment to talk about that, and it really did feel like the most comfortable place to grow and to learn.
How do you feel about being picked out as a woman in this industry now, and how is the diversity piece going? How do you see this industry when you look around the room?
I mean, I think there's room to grow. I mean, I think there's also room to grow in broader diversity. I think the women's piece is one that we focus on quite a lot because it is really important, but I don't want to cloud the wider diversity picture. And I personally never viewed myself coming into financial services. It was never what I planned to do. My colleagues at school or university, it was a certain stereotype that were planning to go into that industry, and I didn't fit that. So I never thought I would. I fell into it, and now I love it. So I think it's representation and seeing more people like you that you can connect with. And actually at this event, I've met a load of really interesting women who I would love to connect with in the future and be mentored by them, hopefully, and just kind of mentor and be mentored and share that knowledge.
Harriet, that is so great to hear. It's really refreshing to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us at IMpower. Great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you too. Thanks for having me.